Share my screen. All right, quickly go through this on tables. All right, HTML tables. Maybe it's a review, maybe it's not. If it's a review, it's great. If it's brand new to you, well, this will help you today in the test. So we're just going to quickly go over some of the syntax for creating tables. Tables have been around for a while. You'll find when you are trying to organize your content, I always revert back to tables. There's different ways of doing it. You can do it purely with CSS, and there's different ways of solving some of these problems, but tables have been around for a while. I'm pretty fast with these things. Designers stay away from them sometimes, but for me, they're pretty intuitive with what I need to do quickly. So let's talk about tables a little bit. So to define an HTML table, we need that table tag that defines an HTML table. And then we have the concept of rows as we would in the table, and we have a concept of columns. So each table row is defined by the TR tag. Each table header is defined by a TH tag. Each table data cell is defined with a TD tag. It's a lot to take in. We'll go in through each tag, just so you know. But you know, to give a glance at what it looks like, TH are bold and centered, so that's these first name and last name in that header row. And then we have the TD elements that are regular and left aligned. So that's what a table looks like, but we'll dig into a little bit more into what this elements are. So the table element represents tabular data. So when we're doing a lot of tabular data, kind of like, you know, if you're thinking of Excel, but you know what, they're multi-purposed. You may find yourself throwing content in here. I mean, although, like I said, designers may not like that, but you can kind of organize content in a way, and you can hide the border if you needed to. Nobody would really know the difference if it was kind of a rough-in, right? If you needed to organize some images in a way, hint, hint, like I showed you in the album cover for the assignment, you could do a table with cells and throw in those images and then hide the border. There's a lot of tricks with CSS that can let you play with the HTML elements and allow you to do some organization on the screen in an easy way. I mean, like I said, you can go the more complex route, or you can kind of rough something in. So this element represents tabular data, that is information presented in two-dimensional table comprised of rows and columns of cells containing data. HTML tables allow web developers to arrange data in rows and columns. So we have a simple table header here with first name, last name, and then we have this kind of bigger table here that has countries, capitals. And again, to add a column here is no big deal. You can add as many columns as you want. You could have a 100 by 100, you know, grid if you needed to. But then you get into some other concerns like paging and things like that. So that's the table tag. So then we have the TR tag. I highlighted it here just so you pointed out. We already looked at this table. The TR element defines a row of cells in a table. The row cells can be established using a mix of TD, data cell, and TH tags. So here you can see we have each row here is highlighted here to signify, you know, a break in the row. We have player Wayne Gretzky with 2,857 points. And then we have this other player here who is trying to catch up to him, but really look at that. He needs another 1,000 points. So I don't think he's going to catch up, although he's close to 43 or something like that. I don't think he's ever going to get another 1,000. So our record, if you don't know, Wayne Gretzky is one of the greatest hockey players of all time, and he has the most points, and Jaromir Jagr cannot catch him. I'll bet on that. So TD element, that's the cells of the table. So now we're talking about, instead of going vertically down with the rows, we are going horizontally across, right? So here we set up a row that has 3 columns, right? So 3 rows, so 3 by 3. So first we do this header tag, which we'll talk about, but the TD tags, you know, they actually will represent that new cell. And again, the difference between the TH and the TD is that, you know, we can have some alignment going on. So the TH has a lot more attributes to it. The TH defines a cell as a header of a group of table cells. The exact nature of the group is defined by the scope and the header attributes. So we have a lot of attributes. I just grabbed it from the MDM. Just so you can, you know, you understand what some of these attributes are in case you see them. You may not need them today. I would reckon you don't need them. Even for your assignment, you may not need them either, but it's just good to know about them. That it has a scope. So this attribute defines the cells that the header defined in the TH. It basically defines what it refers to. It can have the following values: a row attribute, column attribute, a row group, a column group, or auto. It's a lot to read here, but the row, so this is the header relates to all cells of the row it belongs to. The column, the header relates to all cells of the column it belongs to. So basically it's saying like these columns here is what this header belongs to here, this group here, right? Whereas this header belongs to the row, the context of the row. You can mix and match them. Row group, column group, and auto. So row group, the header belongs to a row group that relates to all the cells. Column belongs to a column group that relates to all of its cells. A long read, but just wanted to point out, if you see the syntax, what it means. Let's quickly try it out. All right, so we're quickly seeing here that this one is showing THs here. So this is showing, we have the concept of these. If we remove this right here and we run the table, you can see we don't have that header tag in there. If we remove this, if you can see, they're center aligned. They're a little bit bigger, so they're signifying, if you put some styling on the background, you'll see that they'll actually point out a little bit. And by the way, if you're building your interface, it's okay to put inline styles like this to build your mock. You know, when I started doing my my interface, I put inline styles here, and that's not a bad thing. You know, as you're building this out, you can do inline styles, and then when you're finally happy with what it looks like, you can go and extract these style. If these get big enough, like they're really long, you know, maybe you have border 1 pixel solid, you know, whatever, black, something like that. You know, if these start to get really long, then at that point, it's probably best that you know, extract it into a class. And when I say class, what I'm referring to is, then you could probably rename that as, you know, you can make a style somewhere in your code, and you can say, okay, well, this is going to be my blue header style. And at that point in time, you could then extract this piece of code out, this styling out, because it's growing. I know what it looks like because I've already tested it. This is the part of the organization where it takes you a little while to kind of organize things. So now I have a blue header now that I could use in different tables. I know what it looks like, and then I could go in here and just say, okay, well, I'm going to refer to my class blue header here, all right? And that's that, you know? And then you could extract this further out into an external style sheet. So it's okay to inline style things and then come back and clean it all up a little bit and organize your style sheets and styles in a nice way. That takes time though. It takes it takes a bit of time to do that organization. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, can you pronounce your name so I don't get it wrong?
Sure. Hi, Mike. This is Shivam.
Shivam?
Shivam, yes.
Yes, Shivam,
So
okay.
my question is, it is possible to implement this very logic in the assignment, but are we allowed to do so?
Sorry, are you allowed to do what?
Are we allowed to put the data of our assignment using the tables just to make it appear very uniform and user-friendly?
Yes. You don't need to, if you're at the level where you can use divider tags and use your styles to do it, that's great. But that's great. But you can use a table and put put it in there. I mean, I did that because I can do it quickly. You don't have to. If you wanted to use all CSS, that's great. That's how you implement it, but it's not required.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yes. All right. So yes, you can use. I mean, you can use it for content and kind of representation of the screen. You could also use sections. You know, you could use a section and apply styling to it. You could use the divider tags, the div tags, and move alignment. You know, there's ways to do it. There's many ways to do this. But you can also have a little bit of a CSS hack and throw everything in a table and hide the borders, right? Because it's very uniform. We'll get into like the more complex things where alignment and padding and things like that, you know, they're common issues in this kind of designing. We have the header elements. So we have a very good structure of a table. You would have a head element, th head, T-H-E-A-D, T-head, T-H-E-A-D. Element defines a set of rows defining the head of the columns of the table. So you can represent that, and there'll also be a table body, and you can kind of make a very good structure of this kind of HTML table model. So here I highlighted the tags here. We have a header tag with a row that we can also, the good thing about that is you can write a style that selects all table headers, right? And apply a background to all your tables in the document of blue and change the for font color to a different color. So you can select that element very easily, right? And then at the same time, if you have a very well-defined table, you have a body tag, tbody, that we'll get into. And remember, when you look at these elements, you can also visualize the selectors in CSS. That if you have, say, hundreds of tables in your application, you can make them all uniform with a style. Where are we here? We are, yeah, there's not too much here that we're gonna go through, but let's quickly look at this one here. So same deal, I think. No, I didn't do it, so why not add it? Let's say we did t-head tag, close my tag off, /t-head. We could grab this, put this element in here, run that. It's not going to change, but if we did have a style, in there, you know, style tag, we could select the t-head and background color, live programming, black, blue. Remember, you have to close out your parentheses. Right, so now I can actually select that header. I can change it to blue and white. I can do whatever I want with it. I can add, let's kind of put this on another line just to make it look a little better. You know, so I have control now. I have a selectable element. Maybe I want to add some margin to it, 20 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Didn't like that. Let's see, padding, top, 25 pixels. Didn't like that either. Why didn't like that? Anyhow, didn't like that. You can do inline elements, right? If you had to be very specific with something. Padding 10 pixels. doesn't like me for some reason. Padding. Okay, well, we'll go back to that. But anyhow, the point is that, again, you can refer, if you get into these issues, you just look at your CSS and what you may be missing there, right? But anyhow, we can select these elements directly in the DOM with our selectors. And there, it is finicky, right? You might as well just like open up developer tools and just start playing with those things. Maybe the ranking lost, you know, in my example here, you open up your dev tools, take a look at why that's not working. You know, maybe you select the highlight something, take a look at what's going on here. Maybe you need to override something. Maybe you need to, you know, vertically align something. Why did it not work? Right? You can play inside of here and modify things in your own style, right? You know, let's see, padding top. What happened? 25 pixels. There you go. It did something there. Now I put my element itself. Add some coloring to that. It's not letting me do it in there, right? But you can see that, you know, going back to the T head now and adding some background color to it. So the point is, when you are actually doing your work, I would suggest you always have your developer tools open and see what's going on. Like, see what's happening in this environment here, right? What's the ranking and all that stuff. See, now it worked. For whatever reason, now it's working because I'm targeting that element itself, right? So now I have the padding on there. But use this selector tool, use this inspection, start modifying. If you're coding here and you're refreshing the browser, yeah, that works, but you can actually see it live and you can actually work in this view and then try to figure out, you know, what your interface is going to look like on the fly and say, okay, that looks good, or it doesn't look good. You know, now I know I can toggle this and say, okay, maybe in my style sheet I need to adjust my padding. Maybe I need to take the border off. But you can get the live feed in this window real time. Yeah, padding doesn't work for TR, only TD, right? So very particular. Sometimes you say, okay, well, like the padding, why didn't it work for the TR? Well, you got to take a look at the attribute itself and say it doesn't work for the row itself. It works on the columns, and that's what the MDM is. There's so many attributes flying around that you have to refer back to the guidelines. To be honest, I don't memorize all this stuff. I use those guidelines because there's so much going on. You need to refer back. All right. Again, table body. So we have the concept of the table body that we can select. We have a header, we have a table body. Inside the body has some rows and columns. So the HTML table body element is T body, will encapsulate a set of rows, TR elements, which within them may have TDs, which are cells, indicating that they comprise the body of the table. And then this is what a bigger look at this. Again, if we have a header, we have a body tag. Now we should have a footer tag. And again, this was not always part of the markup or the standard, but it's really nice to have a way of selecting a footer for totals or something like that. So we can define a set of rows that summarize the columns of a table in a way that we could, you know, you may need to do this many times, like in Excel. You may need to grab onto the last row with a selector, and sometimes that's hard. But if it's an element that always appears at the bottom, like a footer, you can just quickly select T-foot tag. So it saves you a bit of time. Nice to know is we actually have a caption. This was not available always, and I certainly like this. I don't have to go and add that extra effort to put a span tag and center it and then do all that jazz. So a caption tag, you can quickly add a caption to the bottom of the table. So that is really handy. And all it is it's in the markup. It's a nested tag. The browser knows how to render that, so it renders that on the bottom. I'm sure you can control it and position it wherever you want, but it's nice because it's part of this table. It comes along for the ride in the markup, and that's another useful thing. All right, a couple more slides. We'll wrap up. Anyways, this goes. Well, these next few slides will wrap up quickly here. So these attributes we talked about a little bit that you may know of, may have seen before, call span. So it's a good one to know that there is a way to, you don't have to necessarily be locked into how many cells you have horizontally. You can actually take up more than one column if you need to. You may have a header that comprises, in this instance, 2 telephone numbers, and you can kind of get that so the header has a column for the name and then has that shared column header. There's no point. It's really awful if you're trying to make a header with a centered tag, but there's a line in the way and you want to remove it. It's, this is the way to do it. Call span equals 2. So Bill Gates has 2 numbers if you need to call him for whatever reason. Maybe he has some kind of vaccine or something like that you want to talk about. You can give him a call on his home number and his mobile number. I don't think he'll pick up for me, but maybe for you. All right. So I can quickly call. I'm not going to call him. Although he did make Microsoft and Windows, so in a way, he's responsible for my career. So, all right. So we have a table with 2 headers and what do we say? A call span here. So if we had gotten rid of this completely and ran this, it would give us this situation here, which we don't want, a broken table in the sense that it has a mismatched number of columns and row columns across the table. So instead of a 3 by 3, this is now something else. But anyhow, the good thing is that we do have access to this, so we can quickly kind of make that whole again. And then if you notice again up here, we have these selectors going on here where it does give the table, the header and the TD a border and it does something with the border, collapses it. But by default, we don't have a border. So you would not necessarily see that, and it could actually confuse you quite a bit because you may see something in the UI, but you may not know that it has a border there, that it is actually a table. You may think that they went through another way to kind of create this tabular view. Again, so each element we can select. So we put a border around the whole table. We also, let's get this table span back. So it's a nice grid. We also are adding some padding, 5 pixels, and we're aligning the left. We're aligning all the text left. Without that, these would be centered. Without the padding, it would be a little bit tighter, right? So, but again, maybe we want a lot of padding so we can increase that and make it look in that way, make the grid look a lot bigger. All right. So call span, very important when you're trying to do headers. At the same time, there's the other way, vertically going down as row span. So to make a cell span more than one row, we use row span attribute. So now we're going vertically, so we have this concept here of row span. So now we have the telephone now. That row is, if you can tell, it's basically a shorter grid, 2 by 2, but then inside of the second row, we have it split in that column, which again is very useful in some ways. You may have a tabular view. You may have some elements on the same line that you want to do in that way very quickly. Same deal, we have selectors. Nothing's changed, to be honest, from this one. The only thing that has changed is we have this row span. Without it, we have this kind of broken table happening, which we don't want this phone number underneath it. We want it over there. So if we say we increased it to 20, let's just see what happens to the table. Nothing, because now it's over the span of the row, right? So we can put it back there. What else? So that's one more slide. Row span, CSS. So we kind of just quickly alluded to this already. To add a table, a border to a table, use the CSS property border. So we already established that we have a border that has 1 pixel, solid black, and it gives us this kind of appearance. If we need to align certain items centered, here this is a property attribute called text align. So it'll pull things over a little bit in a better way than if you didn't have that. All right, let's quickly look at border. We already did look at this, but let's just quickly look at this style, this mix here. So same deal. We're targeting the table. If we want this border to be 10 pixels long, we have this situation going now. That's a pretty hard on the eyes table there, but that's what we can do, right? We already play with this. If we have a dotted, we can have something like a dotted border as well. So we have something like that. And there's other attributes around all of the borders themselves. One last thing. Text align. So attribute there, you might need to align things, not just, you may play with text align a lot. You may align some content that might not be text. So if we had center, let's see what that does. That throws it over there. If we type right, it's going to right align everything over there as well. So we can control all that. Maybe there might be an image in there. We might need to align center. So anyhow, that is the quick rundown of HTML tables. I think it will help you out a little bit. Let's see, how do you enable pagination on a table? Well, we're getting into, so padding doesn't work, right? Are those real? How do you enable pagination on a table? Well, there is frameworks for that. And if there is newer markup in the HTML5, I believe they may have some type of, no, I don't think there's a widget for that, but yeah, then you're getting into like CSS to like build some of those links. HTML5 doesn't have it built in. But normally when you're dealing with pagination and you're dealing with that interactivity, you're really best not to build it yourself. It's really nice to use something like Bootstrap that has all that built into it, and then you can just leverage it. Tell your boss that you did it in all weekend when really it took you a couple hours really to get it up and working. So yes, let me just stop this quickly.